Is the call for peace and security a prophetic warning in disguise? In 1 Thessalonians 5:3, written between 49 to 51 AD, Paul delivers a chilling prophecy. For when they say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them.
A land of peace, safety.
Today, world leaders repeatedly use these exact words.
All right, buckle up for this video, and for TikTok purposes, this is for entertainment only. Now, this is Nathan Reynolds. He was born into a family that has the ancient bloodline of those that are mentioned in Genesis 6. Now, I'm going to be very careful with my words in this video for obvious reasons, but he is now a spirit-filled born-again believer, and he talks very openly about what it was like being raised in the occult, being raised in that kind of environment, the activities that they would be constantly involved in, some of which are very hard to listen to. He talks openly about their interactions with the demonic realm, with fallen angels, and he came to the topic of the upcoming tribulation, about the upcoming Antichrist. I'm going to play a 1-minute clip of what he said, and then I'm going to tell you what happened to me.
But his shot caller on the earth is going to be the beast who rises. That's Apollo. It's not some Nikolai Carpathia and Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins Left Behind series brainwashed America and the world to think that it's some dude who's going to just show up one day and be real politically active. Not that guy. It's named in the Bible explicitly for a reason. It's not like a questionable thing. Death follows him. That's Anubis. That's the jackal-headed god. That's the false prophet. It's plainly said in the scriptures. They are going to come and physically inhabit actual thrones on the earth. The dragon, the devil, Azazel, is going to give his power, his reign, over to Apollo. They won't go by these names, right? They'll call him like the Traveler. They're going to call him celestial hosts. These gods, these aliens that have come. The guys who gave us life. Thank you, Prometheus. Those guys. That'll be much more the narrative that's conducive for their agenda. But these X-Men, like, they are literally children, bloodline inheritance children from Nimrod.
So at this point, I had been binge watching multiple of his videos, just going from podcast to podcast. It's at the end of the day, nothing else is going on. I'm not emotional until I get to this point, and it comes out of absolutely nowhere. And I'm all of a sudden, just like a light switch, I'm uncontrollably emotional. I'm crying to a point where I can't even breathe. There was no sound coming out. I'm trying to gather myself and take a breath of air. And I'm laying there and I just get this image of ancient Egypt, but it was modernized in a way. And I'm watching and I'm just seeing these giant freaks, these giant demonic hybrids, and they're hunting down man, and there's chaos and people are screaming. And, God said it would be like it was in the days of Noah. And I literally sat there, y'all, and I had this revelation, and I pray every single day that God will reveal to me the truth. And he took me down this road a few years ago out of nowhere, and he has shown me so much, through the Bible, through the Apocrypha, about the spiritual side of all of this. And that's why I like this topic, because a lot of Christians don't like to learn about the spiritual war, about the entities that are all around us. I do. I find it fascinating. And, God said that the end days would be exactly like it was in the days of Noah. And a lot of Christians don't understand exactly what happened in the days of Noah. The flood didn't come about. God didn't pour out his wrath just because there was sin. He poured out his wrath because literally there was one family left that was genetically pure, that hadn't been messed with by demonic entities. And that was Noah. Satan came down and tried to prevent Jesus from being born. There was demonic hybrids running and ruling this world. And that's why, everywhere we see, they have these half human, half animal hybrids. And of course, we were taught that this is just Greek mythology. It was just weird stuff written on ancient hieroglyphics. We didn't really think anything of it because we weren't taught, of course, that this actually happened, because that would correlate to the Genesis 6 narrative. That would correlate to actually why God flooded the earth. Every single ancient civilization had some form of these hybrids, some form, and some of them worshiped them as gods because they had had demonic knowledge. They had demonic power. They were most of them were giants. So they were revered as little g gods. Okay, so just bear with me. So I'm laying there, I'm gathering myself, I can breathe normally again. I have him paused and I'm trying to analyze all of this, right? I have this image of ancient Egypt kind of in the future, I guess. And I'm thinking like, what if he's right? What if all of us were trying to like look at this world, political figures, trying to figure out who could be the AC, who could be, you know, fulfilling prophecy, what this man's doing, he's making alliances over there. And I'm like, what if we're thinking too small? What if we're not thinking spiritual enough? And I'm like, God says it will be exactly like it was in the days of Noah. And we know that they're going to explain the rapture. And if you don't believe in the rapture, then you can prepare to endure all this. But once the rapture happens, they're going to explain it. Satan already has an explanation. He has his way of telling the world what happened without leading them to the Bible. So he's going to tell the world that we were abducted, right? So what if the little g gods, who are very much real, actually come back and they physically return to this world? And what if one of them, Apollo, will come down in the form of the fake Messiah? And because he is giant, because he is going to descend from the literal air, what if they're actually going to descend on this earth and everything is going to come back? Because I know, and I cannot talk about this, that they're doing things in labs. What if everything is going to be released? What if everything is going to come back? And the Antichrist is not some little mortal political dude on our TV screens, on our phone screens. What if he is actually going to be half demon in a way that he actually descends from another dimension? And that is how the deception is so grand. That is how the deception is so overwhelming. And that is why it says that men's hearts fail them from fear. That period of time, you literally have hybrids walking this earth again. And what if the false prophet comes with him and is literally this freak? And again, I could be totally off. I could be totally in left field with this and I am just crazy, but it makes sense. It makes sense as in the days of Noah. And it makes sense, the deception aspect. It makes sense, the deception level. It makes sense because the Antichrist is going to be seen as the Messiah. The Antichrist is going to try to be Jesus. And he kind of can't be just some political guy that we've been seeing, right? But he might not even be some political guy that's just been in an office somewhere on this earth. What if he's actually going to be one of these demons, one of these spirits, one of these fallen angels from the days of Noah? Now, the first seal is the rider on the white horse. That is the Antichrist. So the rider actually represents a real person that will participate in the tribulation. The fourth seal has two riders on a pale horse. And what if death and Hades is actually the arrival of Anubis and somebody else? Because Anubis is the god of the underworld. So what if the riders on the pale horse actually represent the arrival of the false prophet and somebody else that plays a role in the tribulation? And then I'm digging a little deeper and I'm reading about the locusts that are released from the literal pits of hell to torment men. And it says, and the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running into battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men for 5 months. What if everything is coming back? What if what we have been thinking is truly, like I heard in my spirit, child's play? What if it will be exactly like it was in the days of Noah? And what if when God said that men's hearts will fail them from fear, one of the reasons is because these things are now walking the earth again?